That's very unusual for me. Feeling my Wheaties this morning. All right, we were waiting a little bit because evidently there was a road closure and people had to take a detour around. So we're just waiting a few minutes to fill the sanctuary. All right. You come on in and take a seat, everyone. So good morning and welcome. Welcome to all of you here in the sanctuary. It's always such a joy to be up here looking out at these beautiful smiling faces and feeling your loving energy coming this way. And I'll be sending it back to you too. And we also welcome those of our family who are on live stream today. They're always here in our hearts, and we welcome them here today too. So my name is Sandy Spurgeon, and I'll be the platform assistant today. And I have the privilege of introducing our guest speaker today. Our guest speaker is Dr. Will Tuttle, as most of you might have read in our e-bulletin. And Will is a composer, a pianist who you'll get to enjoy his piano playing today, an educator and author of a best-selling book, The World Peace Diet, that was published actually in 18 languages. He's devoted to providing uplifting and healing original music and to helping people awaken their inner wisdom and genius. He's a former Zen monk and Dharma master in the Korean Zen tradition. Currently conducting music, art, education ministry with his wife, Madeline, who is also joining us today. Thank you for being here, Madeline. And she's a visionary artist from Switzerland, and you can see some of her artwork is around the sanctuary. Beautiful artwork that she has. So we're very happy that you're here today. Welcome. Welcome to our family. So I just ask you all to silence your cell phones, please, if you would, before we get started. And then, as always, we like to do our land and unity acknowledgement. We, the community of unity in the Gold Country, acknowledge that we gather on this ancestral and unceded lands of the Nisenan people, who lived in relationship with this land for countless generations. We honor their enduring presence, resilience, and deep spiritual connection to the earth. In gratitude, we honor this land, its beauty, history, and the people who have always protected it. In that same spirit of remembrance and gratitude, we honor Unity founders Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, and all who have sustained and grown the unity movement across generations. We honor Reverend Joe and Lynn Sloan, the charter members of Unity in the Gold Country, and Reverend Jerry, who have served this community with wisdom and care. And we honor our ancestors, whose love and sacrifices made our presence here possible, and stand behind us as we do what is ours to do. Amen. So I'd like to extend a special welcome to anyone who is here for the first time. If you could raise your hand if you're here for the very first time, just so we can see who's here. Great, wonderful. And if you did not receive a welcome packet, keep your hand up or raise your hand again, and Carolyn will hand one out to you. Great. Welcome. We're very happy to have you here today, and we hope you'll join us for coffee afterwards. And if you would put the blue badge, the welcome badge on your shirt, then we will make sure to point you out and be able to greet you this after service. Okay. So prayer is a foundational practice here at Unity, and if you'd like to receive individual private prayer today, our prayer chaplain is, where is she? Carolyn Homan. Can you stand, Carolyn, so everyone can see who you are? Yeah. And Carolyn would be happy to meet you in the back of the sanctuary if you would like individual prayer, and she'll lead you to the chapel. We do have a prayer request form, so if you have someone that you'd like to ask prayer for, there's prayer request forms out of the sanctuary doors to the right. And then always be aware that Unity has a Silent Unity program. It's a 24/7 prayer program, and they're available online or by phone. And just, if you ever have a need in the middle of the night to have prayer, it's a wonderful phone number to keep handy, all right? So now I just would invite you to just center into your seats, maybe feet on the floor. Let's just be fully present in this now moment as we light the Christ candle. We light the Christ candle honoring the Christ light that is within each and every one of us. I feel like it's fireworks up here. Okay, let's try something else. So with gratitude, we gather as the unique expressions of the divine presence that we are. We pause for a moment to feel into this life force that invites us to be a creative partner with it. We now allow this sacred presence to more fully embody within our whole being. We also sense and feel the connection that exists between each and every one of us, the universal web of intelligence of which we are all a part as members of the human family. As we appreciate this web of connection with one another, moving more from a me consciousness to a we consciousness, we express our desire to unite with all humanity through the energy of compassion and kindness. We invite this loving energy to rise within us now, extending outward to connect to Mother Earth and all sentient beings. This uniting spirit of oneness, the one I am presence, we call the Christ. We light this candle as a reminder that we are all blessed by being part of this one presence. This is the truth. Let us claim it, embody it, and make it real in our lives. So, Will, we'd like you to start us off with our first song, and then is this one we can participate in?
Yeah, everybody stand.
Everybody stand. Okay, please remain standing and greet your neighbors. Catherine?
So do I just start right in?
No, not yet. Okay, we ask you to get back into your seats. It's so hard to break up all this greeting and love. Okay, all right, I'm going to turn it over to Will.
All right. So yes, I'd like to just give a short reading from a book that I wrote called The World Peace Way. It's the most recent book. And this is the reading from the second chapter on meditation and spiritual practice. With inner work, we can discover new avenues of awareness and free ourselves and everyone around us from the burden of being offended, of trying to blame others or to justify our actions, and of having to work to forgive others or ourselves. While we can work hard to get out of the boxes that confine and wound us, we can also realize directly that our true nature can never be in any box or be confined or harmed in any way. With practice and effort, we can broaden and illumine our awareness enough that we can experience and abide in states of consciousness that naturally bring humor, freedom, joy, forgiveness, and clarity, where normally we would be reacting with fear, anger, sadness, impatience, or retaliatory self-righteousness. Our mind is always creating the context that interprets all experience. As we strive to elevate our mental awareness and to extinguish our identification with the conditioned awareness that revolves perpetually around the false sense of being an isolated self, the whole world changes. The old saying sums it well, quote, "We see things not as they are, but as we are," end quote. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. So now we move to a time of prayer. And I just invite you all to join me in our prayer intention. It's up on the screen. Together, we set the intention that as each name on our prayer list is read, that person is bathed in love and their highest good comes to them. In our prayer list today, Margaret and her 3 children, Mark Lanham and family, Pat Davis and family, Marissa and May, Josh, Jan and Scott, Wouter Van Hagen, Marianne and Michelle Chi, Lita Spoto and family for the passing of Bill Spoto, Amu Atwood, Joy Holloway, Jack Travis, Kate Sholey, Cal Irvine and family, Laura Kariman, Judy Silence, O.G. Petro, Marlene Bottenfield, Danielle, Greg and Breham, Lena Hayes, Richard Homan, Kay Jones, Mary Hughes, Bodie, and Robin Melgren. Speak the names out loud or to yourself of anyone else you would like to add to the prayer list for today. So we can join together in our statement of faith. There is only one presence and one power, active as the universe and as our lives, the all-loving goodness of God, and all is well. So the daily word today is comforted. Secure in the love of the divine, I am comforted. Taking time to remember my loved ones who have passed and envisioning them alive in God brings me comfort and softens the edges of my sadness. When those who care about me reach out to offer me solace, I accept it as the love of God flowing through them. When I remember the good times spent with my loved ones, my heart feels lighter as a smile crosses my lips. These tender moments remind me that God is always with me, even in times of grief. I need not shrink from the pain of loss or busy myself to avoid feeling it. Instead, I lean into the comforting love of God to see me through it. This love lifts me and soothes my aching heart. The power of God within gives me strength to persevere with courage and fortitude. As a mother comforts her child, so I will comfort you. You shall be comforted in Jerusalem. Isaiah 66:13. And now it's time to step into our meditation, and Will be leading us in that today.
Let's become aware of our breathing. With every exhalation now, just letting go of any thoughts of the past, any thoughts of the future, allowing ourselves to enter more deeply into this present moment. The only holy moment is right now. And so we give thanks for this precious opportunity of a human birth, for this precious opportunity to grow in wisdom and compassion and to contribute to the healing of our world. We give thanks for this beautiful day and for this unity ministry here in Grass Valley, and for everyone who helps make this ministry possible. We give thanks for this sanctuary where we are gathered, knowing that this outer sanctuary is a manifestation of the inner sanctuary, where we dwell always in unity with the infinite love that is the source of our life and the source of all life. And we give thanks to all of the teachers in our life who have touched our lives in some way to help us awaken to the truth that we are. We give thanks for all of the teachings of all the traditions that help to turn our mind away from the delusion of separateness to the truth of the infinite interconnectedness of all life. And we give thanks for this community, for all of our loved ones. And we give thanks for this beautiful earth and for all living beings here, for the forests and rivers, the mountains and prairies, the oceans and islands, all the animals celebrating their lives, in the waters, in the air, on the land, and for the whole human family on our great adventure of awakening to the truth that we are. And we give thanks knowing that the light that shines at the very heart of the universe is shining right now in our heart, is shining in every cell of our being, is shining in every dimension of our life, bringing every aspect of our life into alignment with the purpose that we are here to fulfill. And so we give thanks knowing that we have a unique mission and ministry for this lifetime. And so we just allow the music now to help us remember and reconnect and deepen our connection with the truth that we are. And we take a moment now to enter together into the silence, the pure potential of being. We give thanks for the divine love shining in our hearts, reminding us that what we are was never born, can never die, is infinite and eternal consciousness that we share with all expressions of life, that we are all related, and that love is our true nature. May all beings be happy and at peace. May all beings be free. May we all realize the original brightness of our minds and hearts. And may we continue together to build a more enlightened society, a world that cares for everyone, a world that reflects the truth of the inner Christ presence, eternal life, through the power and through the presence of the infinite spirit of truth and love. We give thanks knowing this is so, and so it is. Thank you for joining together in our meditation time. I'd like to play a short piece of original piano music before we go into the message this morning. So this is a piece called Dance for the Arctic Moon, and it's basically dedicated to the sacred feminine dimension of consciousness that is within all of us, that yearns to care and connect and show kindness and compassion for all life. Sophia, the ancient Greek goddess of wisdom, the sacred feminine. So this is Dance for the Arctic Moon. The moon cross-culturally represents the feminine, and the Arctic of the four directions, the north, represents the direction of going more deeply within. So this is Dance for the Arctic Moon. I'd like to just invite you as you're listening to let the music take you on an inner journey and dedicate this to the healing of all of our relations. Enjoy. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back here at Unity in Grass Valley. And it's been many years since we've been here. Does anyone remember when we were here last? Any of you old timers? No, nobody. All right, so I'll tell you. We were here at Unity in Grass Valley in 1992. And then that was when, I remember very well, Reverend Jerry and Charmaine Emerald were the ministers. We were here again in 1993. I just looked it up on my laptop so I could have it all written down. And we were here in 1993 again. We came again in 1995. And then we didn't come for quite a while until 2010. We were here was the last time. That's the last time. And it was before this building. So when Madeline and I drove in, it was so wonderful to see this beautiful space that you have manifested here. Thank you so much for the efforts. So Madeline and I basically traveled to Unity churches. We've been doing this now for over 35 years, full time. And so we've been to Unity churches in every state, except there isn't any in North Dakota, but when they have one there, we'll be there. So I think we've been to more Unity churches than anyone in the history of the world. And we love this movement because it's really an extremely healthy movement, I feel, in the sense that it's devoted to the idea of inclusion, right? That not only is everyone welcome here, but we include all the wisdom traditions of the world within the purview of our spiritual practice. So there isn't this kind of exclusivist idea that we have the one only right way and we get to go to a heaven that's really just for us and everybody else is wrong. You know, there's this sense that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of Unity, had of honoring all the world traditions, especially, of course, the beautiful path of Jesus as understood as a path of healing. And the resurrection and symbolism, how it symbolizes the resurrection within ourselves of the Christ nature, of the inner wisdom that is our eternal self. So there's a tremendous wisdom in this tradition, and we're so grateful that it is thriving here in Grass Valley. Thank you all for your efforts to make sure that this continues because it's so important. And so we'd like to talk a little bit this morning about awakening your inner genius. And the idea with that really is this inner capacity that we have to know directly. And my PhD at Berkeley actually focused on educating intuition in adults. So the idea is we have this intuitive capacity. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore talked a lot about this. Charles, in fact, is kind of famous for his idea that we should each go straight to headquarters. Remember, if you've read that, each of us has a capacity. We don't have to have any intermediary. And I always smile when I hear that because I think, well, for him it was pretty easy. He could just go straight to headquarters. He could just ask Myrtle. And what are the rest of us supposed to do, you know? Because she was quite a powerhouse. I have Madeline, I can ask her. But the basic idea is that we have within ourselves, each one of us, an inner guidance system. And this is so important because I think we all know in our bones that there's no greater friend or no greater gift we could ever have than an inner knowing that we can learn to connect with and rely on to live our life authentically. It doesn't mean that our life will be easy, but it does mean it'll be our life, not somebody else's. And there's something inherently satisfying and I would say joy-inducing when we're living our own life. And it's very difficult. It's not easy in our society. We're being continually pressured by powerful forces to live some other life. You'll be happy if you buy this and you do that and have this and so forth. And so for us to continue to be able to keep connected with our own true nature and why we're here on this planet for this short time that we're here and what is our mission and to unfold that every day, it really requires us to do the inner work. How many of you have a regular spiritual practice you do on a daily basis? Some of you? Good. I really recommend that. Have regular daily practice of quieting the mind, of connecting with silence, prayer and meditation. These are connecting with nature. These are really foundational because we are being bombarded by so many influences, and they're not positive, most of them. If you've probably noticed, I mean, one of the reasons I think Madeline and I actually, we've been able to stay out of the medical establishment for the last 50 years, haven't been taken one pill or gone to a doctor or anything. And people say, how's that possible? And I say, well, we haven't had a television for the last 50 years. So I think it's a good idea. We just feel like we'd rather get the news from the trees and something. I don't trust the media too much. I was raised in the media. My father owned a whole chain of newspapers, so I know in my bones, don't trust the media. Because he would tell my mother around dinner, we can't run that article because so-and-so advertiser wouldn't like it. And you look at who the big advertisers are and what the news is and how it all fits together. So it's wonderful to come together and question the official narratives in our society. Krishnamurti had this great saying. He said, it's not a good idea to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Right? So we all want to be well-adjusted. We want to get along and think like everybody else thinks, but then we realize, wait a minute, is that really a good idea? And so that's the key. The reason I think intuition is so important is that it is our true wisdom that's always present, connecting. It can come through into our daily consciousness. And in order to do that, we need to practice. But it's good to remember that when we're born on this earth, wherever we're born, whatever society, whatever language, whatever it is, we are like a little sponge, and we just soak everything up very quickly. The first few years especially, but all whole way through childhood and our whole life. We're a sponge, we're soaking things up, so their language becomes my language, their food becomes my food, their way of thinking becomes my way of thinking. And so we have to be very careful, because as we go through our life, every day we're doing certain things, right? We're making decisions, we're living our life, but what is propelling that? What is the force that's actually driving our choices, our actions, our thoughts and feelings? It's either one of two things. It's either this cultural program that we got since we were born, and all of the ideas that my parents and my teachers and the Walmart ads and all the ministers, not Reverend Anand, but the other ministers, kept putting into my mind my whole life. And so I'm just, in a way, I'm like a programmed automaton, just doing what I've been told to do. It's very difficult to get out of that, but the main way to get out of that, to actually live our life, is to realize we have another potential propelling force, and that is our intuition, or our inner wisdom that's always present. In order to do that, though, we need to quiet our mind, and we need to understand that we're not this body. That's probably the most important thing in many ways, because the real prison that is built for us, if we're not aware, is that we're this body. We're just this physical thing that was born and will die, an object, right? We look at animals like objects. We begin to look at ourselves as an object. We look at each other as objects, and we try to manipulate and use each other as objects to get what we want, keep away what we don't want. So we're in a struggle with each other, and that, in the Buddhist tradition, that's referred to as samsara. It's a delusion of being a fundamentally separate self and manipulating, and according to that tradition, samsara never ends. I mean, it's many lifetimes until you finally awaken out of that delusion that we're not this physical body. One of the ancient symbols, just as an example in the Buddhist tradition, is the symbol of the footprint. And I really like that, because if we go to the beach or somewhere and we see some footprints, we don't walk up to the footprint and go, well, good morning, George. How are you doing today? It's just a footprint. It's not the person that made the footprint. And it's the same thing with us. This is a footprint waving. You can't see me, right? The being, the eternal, non-corporeal consciousness that we are, is eternal and abides in awareness and wisdom. And we're manifesting for a while through this vehicle. And when we understand that, we can begin, and I think the only way to understand it really is to quiet our mind, because the mind is continually reaffirming that I'm just this thing, and I've got to manifest what I want and keep away what I don't want. But when we quiet our mind and we get a glimpse of that, then we begin to understand that for ourselves, and then we begin to see that in others. And it's a wonderful gift we can give to others, to see the being that they are, and realize that whatever shines in their eyes is shining here, and it's bigger than all of us. It's the power that makes all these separate fingers seem separate. And if this one's saying, well, get out of the way, I can't play the piano, right? So it's the same thing with us. We're expressions of the great one life. There's an old story of that I really like. My old Zen teacher used to say. He used to say, once there was a garden where somebody had planted a pumpkin plant, and so the pumpkins all grew, and there they were, and they started arguing among each other about which was the most beautiful pumpkin. And so they said, I have a better color than you do. Well, I'm a little bit tall and thin kind of pumpkin. And so they were arguing about which was the nicest pumpkin. And so then they saw this owl up in the tree, and they asked the owl, So tell us, which one is the most beautiful pumpkin here of all of us? And the pumpkin looked down and he said, you know what you should do is instead of always looking at each other, turn your attention higher. Look up, 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 up. And what do you see at the very top of your head? And they saw that, a stem. And he said, now follow that stem. So they followed the stem. And they saw that the stem all went to one vine. And then in this historic moment of pumpkin epiphany, they all realized it was just one being. And they were arguing with itself. And they all started laughing. So we can all do that. We can see our connection that we have with the eternal source. And when we see that, we get beyond the divisions and the differences and the arguments. The more we see divisions, the more we're deluded and not seeing our connection with the one life that lives through all of us. And that's really, I think, the great liberation that we can, each one of us can do the work to do that. So I'd like to kind of close with just this basic idea that I know all of you who found your way through the door, you have a story that is unique, and it's, I'm sure, a beautiful story, because anyone who finds their way here and stays and so forth, you're not the typical, you're pioneers, really, going into another way of incorporating spirituality in daily life. My story, very briefly, I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts back in the 1950s. And it was kind of a neat place to be born and raised because there was the American Revolution was happening back in 1775. Hardly a man is now alive that remembers the famous day and year of the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. So that was a big thing. April 19th, every year we had the Patriots' Day, and we reenacted the battle that started the revolution, and we have freedom. But then later, there was the Transcendentalist, in a sense, a sort of a philosophical revolution in the mid-1800s. So I was born in Emerson Hospital and learned to swim in Walden Pond, went to Thoreau School and Alcott School. And the Transcendentalists were these people way back then who were the first ones to bring the teachings of Asia into North America. Thoreau had the largest library of books on Taoism and Buddhism and Vedanta and all these Bhagavad Gita and so forth, these teachings. And they really were helping to enrich the Western religious tradition with these ideas. For example, the idea from the Taoist tradition that God is an infinite eternal principle that we can learn to connect with and live in harmony with. Or the idea from the Buddhist tradition that God is an infinite mind and we can connect with that higher mind and awaken our mind. Or the idea from the Hindu tradition that God is equally female as male, that we get beyond just that male idea. And so all these ideas were percolating, and in my research I've realized that these were very powerful influences on Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, also to help deepen our understanding of what Jesus was saying. But I remember being in college and reading this, and that led to starting to meditate and do some yoga. This was way back in the early 1970s. And it led to one book that some of you may have heard of called Cosmic Consciousness, written back in the 1890s. The author of that book, a guy named Richard Buck from Canada, said that basically the main idea was that most people live our lives at the level of what he called self-consciousness. We basically care about ourselves and maybe our family and tribe, and so forth. And he said certain rare human beings had made a leap beyond that, and he said these people have what he called cosmic consciousness. And people like Jesus and the Buddha and great sages and saints and mystics and poets, both men and women through the ages, he gave examples of them and how they lived their lives and how they had lost or escaped from this sort of narrow pettiness that most of us find ourselves in. And they had lost the fear of death, and they had this moral elevation, what he called an intellectual illumination. And he said, what I thought was really quite powerful, it is the destiny of every human being, all of us, to attain cosmic consciousness. This is really our purpose, to get to a higher awareness where we see beyond just the narrow blinders of being a separate self. And so I remember going back home toward the end of my time at Colby, the last couple of years in Maine, and talking to my parents and saying, Mom and Dad, you know about cosmic consciousness, right? We're not just here to make money and, you know. And I remember my father saying, well, speaking of money, that education is costing quite a bit of money, and, and how's it going to help you get ahead in the world? And but we talked about these ideas, and to my delight, my younger brother Ed said, yes, let's do it. Let's attain cosmic consciousness. And so then my parents said, oh, all right, so what are you going to do? And that was kind of a tough thing. I had just graduated from Colby College. I had a degree, but so we decided that the only really sure way that we could actually attain cosmic consciousness at this time in 1975 was to go to California. We thought, if we, you go to San Francisco, I mean, it's got to happen. So we decided we didn't want to just like drive there or take a bus or whatever. We thought we would walk to California with no money the whole way. Like the sadhus of India, just walking and just meditating, and we would be guided, and we would make it. And so we did. I remember we headed down the driveway with some fresh baked cookies for my mother, and we headed out, and we were on our way to head west. And we walked probably about 3 or 4 weeks. We got as far as Buffalo. And I remember in Buffalo, it was October, it was freezing. And so I remember thinking, well, I have a degree from a pretty good college. I can figure it out. We should head south, keep ahead of the cold front. So we walked about 20 miles a day, every day, just down through upstate New York and across Pennsylvania, down into West Virginia. They said, I remember the first night in West Virginia, they said, boys, you're in the Bible Belt. And I said, okay, whatever, and I found out what that meant. They tried to save us every night. It was really an interesting, because we had no money. We'd usually spend the night on the floor of a church if we could, or in the forest. Sometimes we actually stayed in jails or rescue missions or all kinds of places. But we were doing a practice by a man named Ramana Maharshi, a sage from India that we had read about. And he said, go deeper and deeper with the question, who am I? Try to understand who you are, what you are, beyond what you think you are. The body, the mind, the collection, my memories, what I like and don't like. So it was really liberating to just, whatever happened in the outer world, it was like, who am I, who am I? We just kept going. And somehow, I have to say, miracles really happened. I mean, we never went hungry. I remember at one point we said, we were in we went from into eastern Kentucky, into where they had like nothing. People even had dirt on their floors. We stayed sometimes with the people there. And I remember at one time they gave us this meal. They gave us some money. Actually, they gave us $30 to talk to their Sunday school, because we said, and I remember saying to the kids, the most important thing is to remember what Jesus said. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else shall be added unto you. And it was so true, because we just said, that's the most important thing. If we don't do that, who knows what will happen. But if we just keep your eye on the spiritual dimension and focus on that. And so they gave us the $30, and that was back in 1975. That was something, actually. And I remember we had lunch at this little restaurant going out of town, and lunch for 2 people back then was maybe $12. And so I remember giving the waitress an $18 tip, and just kept going. And we thought, like Jesus said, let every day take care of itself. Don't push ahead too hard. So anyway, we ended up eventually at a place called The Farm in Tennessee. And The Farm in Tennessee was, at that point, was the largest hippie commune in the world. They had about 1,000 people living there, and they were all from California. So we thought, well, we kind of met them in the middle, And then from there, we heard about a Zen center down in Alabama, down in Huntsville, if you can believe it. So we ended up walking down to Alabama, and then ended up in a Zen center there, and then eventually a Tibetan Buddhist center in San Francisco. Then eventually I shaved my head, became a Zen Buddhist monk, and went to South Korea, lived there in a monastery, and eventually came back and decided to get my PhD at Berkeley. I taught college for a number of years, and I met Madeline in Switzerland. Madeline's this wonderful artist. I always say the smartest thing I ever did was marrying Madeline. I've been so blessed. But the thing that I want to just emphasize, and I close my talk here with, really is the basic idea that when I was on that walk with my brother, it was many months, and we had nothing, and we had no reason to be happy, right? We had no security, we weren't doing what we were supposed to do, we weren't following any orders or anything, we were just, but I remember for the first time in my life, since I was maybe a little infant, I had these waves of joy just washing over me. I was so happy because I was living my life. And I think that's the key thing. Joy is our true nature. And when we can connect with our inner wisdom and just live our life, move in that direction, we will find this bubbling spring of joy that's always there. We keep it down because we're worried and we're blaming and we're judging and criticizing, but it's actually there. And it's ever present. And so I think I just want to thank all of you, because what I discovered when I was through all these many years of meditation and so forth, and coming back and discovering unity, I realized that the unity movement is extremely precious in the sense that it has the very deep wisdom, real fundamental true wisdom in an available, accessible form for us, for our time. And it takes really the best of the Christian tradition and includes the deep wisdom of all the traditions. And so anything we can do, I feel, that helps to bring this teaching into the future generations, because that's one of the most important things we have to remember, is that we live in a world where the spiritual wisdom traditions, the ancient wisdom traditions that have come forward and brought us the wisdom, they're under attack. They're under attack all the time by many forces, commercial forces, governmental forces, many different types of forces that want us to be afraid and divided and think we're just this body and buy things to make us happy. And it's really only spirituality that brings freedom, that brings real health and joy and abundance and kindness and liberation. And so anything we can do to do the two things: number one, do the inner work every day to unfold this inner wisdom, the ancient wisdom. And number two, to help build a community that's honoring this, that's supporting this, that's bringing it out into the larger community. If we can live our life, and it's brief, our life here on this earth. They interviewed the oldest living human being a while back, a 119-year-old woman, I think she was, from Japan. They said, "Wow, you're the oldest living human. What's it like?" She said, "It went by so fast." So remember that. Our life is brief. So if we can just do these two things, do our inner work, and then help support a community that's connecting our whole society with this ancient wisdom that brings freedom, liberation, and healing, joy and freedom and abundance and awareness, then we will have lived our life well. And that's a fantastic thing. So I want to thank all of you for the efforts you're making. No effort we ever make is ever lost. Bless you all, and go forth and multiply this message. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. We are a beautiful community. We'll just keep it up, right? So right now we are going to move to our love offering time. And we know many of you give electronically, and we are so grateful for that. You may want to place your hand over of your heart, or if you're giving with someone else, you take hands. All change that is put in the basket will be given to our change recipient for May and June, Sammy's friends. So if you will join with me, once you have your offering ready, with our offering affirmation. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And we'll do some special music now.
Great. So as the baskets go around, I'll play a short piece of music. This is called Around the World. Enjoy.
so much gratitude in our hearts. We receive these blessings, and thank you for your offering to Unity in the Gold Country. What am I saying? Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay. We have a few announcements. Our Nutrition and Brain Health group, led by Carrie, on the first and third Friday of each month at 12:30. Prayer and meditation with Susan Levings on Tuesday, May 26th at 10 a.m. And sound bath, also by Susan Levings, the fourth Thursday of each month at 1. Pardon me? Yay, she'll be back. Susan has been away. Okay. Walk for Faith and Justice and Democracy is on Saturday, the 30th at 1 p.m., and you can pick up a flyer. I believe they're out in the entry. Energy Healing Clinic, Sunday, June 14th, with C. Christie to reserve your session. And Christie is here in the back, waving her hand. Book studies, the 11 Spiritual Roles of the Soul, Monday evenings at 6 to 7:30. Book of Mastery, Tuesdays, 12:30 to 2. Books are available in the bookstore. And then Will is going to briefly tell you about his class.
Great. Yeah, we have a workshop right after the service at noon, from noon till about 1:30. It's called Opening the Intuitive Gate, the Keys to Developing Your Intuition. And Madeline and I, let's have a big hand for Madeline, too, all the art and all her help. She's been a great help for everything. And so we'll be doing this workshop, thank you, together. Albert Schweitzer said the key to happiness is good health and a short memory. And so, just being more present. And so we'll share some techniques of meditation and imagery along with music and art to help everyone who's attending connect with your own unique way of accessing your intuition. So that's from 12 to 1:30. And then kind of a special, unusual thing at 2 o'clock, from 2 to about 3 or 3:15, we'll do just a lecture. It's open to the general public, and it's on the books that I've written that promote compassion for animals, vegetarian living, vegan living. And it's called the Art of Healthy Living. It's called the Art of Healthy Living. So it's really about how to live in a healthy way. So we actually have 2 events this afternoon at 12 o'clock and then at 2 o'clock. And they're all on a donation basis. So bless you all. Thanks again. Hope we see you. Thank you. Thanks.
I'm going to use this because we have little ones that we want to hear from today. So a special thank you to Dr. Will Tuttle, thank you so much, and for Madeline for being here. Music, Dr. Will Tuttle. And our greeters, Sue and Carly. Thank you for doing that. Usher, Bonnie and Teresa. Chaplain, Carolyn Holman. Hospitality, Patricia and Doug. Sound, Lance. Love Stream, Edward and Leslie. Gift Bookshop, Patricia. Alter, Carell, and Carol, and the children, Teresia. And we have our children here today. We have 3 beautiful children. Teresia. Hi, Casper. I'm so happy to see you guys, Casper.
Hi.
And hi, Wyatt. How are you, sweetheart? Hi. You good today? Okay. And Dino, nice to see you again. Very nice to see you. Would you like to say your affirmation? What is it? Come up here, okay? What is your affirmation today?
My affirmation is a school.
Okay. Translate. Oh, I learn and discover new things every day.
I discover new
Things
discover
new
means
every day.
news every day.
Yes. Okay, Casper. Hi, sweetheart. What's yours today?
I am wonderful and creative.
Yes, you are. Very wonderful and creative. Thank you, Casper. Good to see you, honey. Dino? And what is yours today?
I can grow from my mistakes.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Thank you very much. And so shall we bless our children? We love you. We bless you. We see you, and we see the Christ light within you. Amen. All right, you guys, thank you for coming up. We so appreciate that. All right, you want to go sit down? All right. I love how they're willing to come up and be in front of all of you. It's great. All right, so if you'd like to stand, and we'll join together in our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, because I am, and all is well. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. What do you think?